The morning sunlight spilled gently over the small town of Maple Ridge, a place where the streets were lined with old oak trees and neighbors still waved from their porches. In one of the modest homes on Cedar Lane, 12-year-old Malik Turner zipped up his backpack while his mother, Danielle, checked the flight confirmation email for the third time. The house smelled like pancakes, though neither of them had eaten much. Traveling still made Danielle nervous, even if she tried to hide it. Airplanes reminded her of her husband, of the day the doorbell rang and two soldiers stood outside holding their hats against their chests. Malik didn't remember that day well. He had been 4 years old, more interested in the toy truck in his hand than the way his mother collapsed to her knees. But he remembered the way she cried afterward, quietly, always quietly, as if she didn't want grief to think it had one. His father, Staff Sergeant Isaiah Turner, had died overseas. One of those men who never came home but remained forever alive in photographs and folded flags. Every trip they took now, every airport they entered, carried a shadow of that memory. It was why Malik always tried to stay close to his mother, even as he grew taller each year. "All right, baby," Danielle whispered, slipping the printed boarding passes into her purse. "We got a long flight ahead. You ready?" Malik nodded, though his chest tightened at the thought of the crowded airplane. His mom squeezed his shoulder. It was their first trip to North Carolina since Grandma Turner had fallen ill. And though the doctor said she had good days and bad days, the way his grandmother sometimes forgot his name scared him in ways he never admitted out loud. The drive to the airport was quiet except for the old gospel station Danielle always played when she needed strength. Malik stared out the window, humming softly the tune his dad used to hum while tucking him in. Just a simple melody, nothing special, but it always made Malik feel safe. Danielle listened to him hum and blinked back the sting of tears. Her boy had her husband's voice, not strong or loud, but warm and steady, like something meant to guide people home. At the airport, everything moved too fast. The rolling suitcases, the loudspeaker announcements, the families rushing to gates while holding coffee and crying toddlers. Danielle tightened her grip on Malik's backpack strap as they made it through security. He didn't mind. Some kids would be embarrassed, but not him. His mom had been through enough, and if holding on helped her feel steady, he didn't mind being her anchor. Their seats were in row 22, middle and window. As they walked down the aisle, Malik saw passengers already looking stressed. A tired mother bounced a red-faced baby who was screaming so loudly that even the flight attendants winced. A man in a suit pressed his fingers against his temples. A woman whispered, "Oh Lord, it's gonna be a long flight." Even before they sat down, the crying filled the entire cabin like a pulsing heartbeat. Danielle glanced toward the baby with sympathy. "Poor thing," she murmured. "Probably scared or tired." Malik settled into his window seat, clutching his backpack to his chest. He could tell the baby wasn't just fussy. The crying had a desperate sound to it, like something deeper was wrong. Minutes later, the plane pushed back from the gate. The mother of the crying baby, young, exhausted, and visibly overwhelmed, rocked her child harder, whispering, "Please, please calm down, sweetheart. Please." Her hands trembled. The flight attendant tried offering help, but nothing worked. Bottles, toys, blankets. The crying only grew louder. As the plane lifted into the sky, Malik felt the vibration beneath his feet and the shaking in his stomach. The crying didn't stop. It rose and fell in waves until the whole cabin felt wrapped in tension. Passengers groaned, a few muttered complaints under their breath. "Can't she control her kid? Here we go again. For once, I'd like a peaceful flight." Danielle shot them a look, her patience thinning. "It's just a baby," she whispered fiercely. "People forget they were children once." The young mother looked close to breaking. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "I'm so sorry. I'm trying. I'm so sorry." Malik felt a tug in his chest. He'd seen that look before, the look his own mother had worn after his father died, when the world around her felt too heavy, and strangers judged without understanding. He wanted to do something, anything. But he didn't know what. The baby's cries hit a higher pitch. A flight attendant approached the young mother again. "Ma'am, is there someone with you? Anyone who can help?" The woman shook her head. No, it's just me. I'm traveling alone. Danielle leaned over. You need anything, hon? The mother tried to answer, but her voice cracked. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. The baby kicked and screamed, face red, tiny hands balled into fists. Something inside Malik shifted. He didn't know whether it was empathy, instinct, or the way his father always taught him to step in when someone needed help. But he unbuckled his seatbelt before his courage could slip away. Ma'am, he whispered to the mother, swallowing nervously. Can I try something? The woman blinked at him in confusion. Try something. Danielle put a gentle hand on his shoulder. Baby, what are you doing? I want to help, Malik said softly. Passengers nearby scoffed. What's a kid gonna do? He'll make it worse. Just leave it alone. But Malik ignored them. He knelt gently beside the mother's seat. At first the baby didn't even notice him, still screaming in frantic bursts. Malik took a deep breath, closed his eyes for a moment, and did the only thing he knew. The only thing that ever comforted him when fear wrapped around his chest. He hummed. The same gentle tune his father hummed to him. A melody that felt like a warm blanket, like home, like love that stayed even when people didn't. His voice was soft at first, fragile, almost drowned by the noise of the engines and the crying. But Malik kept humming, slow and steady, letting the melody flow like water. Danielle watched him, her heart tightening. She hadn't heard that tune in years, not since Isaiah died. Hearing it now felt like the past reaching through time, touching her with hands she had longed for. Something in the air shifted. The baby's cries softened for a second, just a second, but enough for the mother to look at Malik with wide eyes. Do it again, she whispered. Malik kept humming. The baby's cries faltered, then turned into confused whimpers. Finally, the baby's little chest rose and fell in slow, deep breaths. The crying stopped completely. The entire cabin fell silent. The mother's hands flew to her mouth. Tears streamed down her cheeks, shaking her shoulders. How did you do that? Malik shrugged shyly. I dunno. My dad used to hum it. When I was scared. Passengers who had complained earlier now stared at him in stunned quiet. A man in the aisle seat whispered, Well, I'll be damned. Another woman crossed her heart. A flight attendant placed a hand on her chest, overwhelmed. Danielle covered her mouth, her eyes glistening. Her son, her sweet boy, had just turned a plane full of frustration into something like peace. But it was more than that. He had brought a piece of his father back into the world, if only for a moment. Malik finally sat back down, cheeks warm with embarrassment. I didn't do anything special, he whispered to his mom. Danielle shook her head. Baby, you did more than you know. Across the aisle, the young mother held her now sleeping baby close, rocking gently. Her voice trembled when she said, Thank you. I haven't slept in 2 days. His father, he's not around anymore. I'm just trying my best. Malik nodded with quiet understanding. He knew what it felt like to grow up with only one parent fighting to keep everything together. He knew what it felt like to need comfort from someone who wasn't there anymore. As the plane cruised through the clouds, peace settled over the cabin. People whispered less. Smiles appeared. Even the man in the suit relaxed his shoulders. The baby, finally calm, slept soundly against his mother's chest. Danielle reached over and squeezed Malik's hand. Your dad would be proud, she murmured. Malik looked out the window, eyes softening as the sky stretched endlessly before him. For a moment, he imagined his father somewhere in the blue above them, not gone, just watching, guiding, humming. But deep in his heart, he didn't know that the peaceful moment was only the beginning. That the tune he hummed would soon reveal something about himself, something buried deep beneath grief and memory. Something that would change more lives than just the baby's. Because the universe has a way of returning kindness. And sometimes, the smallest melody can echo louder than all the noise in the world. For a long time, the plane stayed peaceful. Passengers rested, the baby slept, and the soft hum of the engines blended with the quiet rhythm of the clouds passing by. Malik sat with his hands folded on his lap, staring at the window as if the sky itself were listening to him. Danielle kept glancing at him with a mixture of pride and sadness, the same look she used to give her husband when he did something gentle, something that reminded her why she fell in love with him. But peace can be fragile. Maybe it was the exhaustion of the night before. Maybe it was the old memory of a house that no longer smelled like soul food and laughter. Or maybe it was the weight of knowing they were going to see Grandma Turner, whose mind was fading like a radio station losing its signal. Whatever the reason, Malik's chest tightened the way it always did when grief tried to return. He rested his forehead against the window. His mother didn't notice right away, but when she did, she touched his arm lightly. "You okay, baby?" "I'm fine," he whispered. But Danielle knew her son too well to believe that. She had learned how to read silence, especially the kind Malik used when he didn't want to worry her. He had inherited that from Isaiah, holding pain quietly, hiding the shake in his voice, pretending strength even when the world felt too heavy. A soft announcement crackled through the speakers. "Folks, we're going to hit a little turbulence soon. Please stay seated with your seatbelts fastened." The cabin lights dimmed. Some passengers tightened their grip on the armrests. The baby's mother quickly checked her child, who stirred but didn't wake. When the turbulence hit, the plane jerked hard. A gasp spread across the rows. Malik gripped his seat. Danielle placed her hand on top of his, steadying him. "It's okay," she whispered. "Just bumps in the road." But for Malik, the shaking wasn't just shaking, it was memory. He remembered a night years ago when a storm hit their town, windows rattling, thunder echoing like something breaking. He remembered Danielle holding him while pacing the living room, whispering, "Daddy's okay, Malik. He's coming home." He remembered believing her. Then the knocking on the door. Then the silence afterward. Every rough jolt of the plane made his stomach twist. When the shaking stopped, he exhaled shakily. The sky outside brightened, the turbulence fading away as quickly as it had come. Yet Malik's hands kept trembling. Danielle squeezed them. "Talk to me, sweetheart." "I'm good," he said again, forcing a smile. But Danielle saw it. The way he blinked too fast, the way his shoulders curled in, the way he hugged himself like he was trying to hold broken pieces together. Before she could say anything else, the young mother across the aisle leaned over slightly. "Is he okay?" Danielle hesitated. She didn't like discussing her son's pain with strangers. Malik was private, sensitive, careful with his heart. But the woman's eyes were gentle, tired, carrying the same kind of hurt she herself carried. "He gets anxious sometimes on flights," Danielle said softly. "We lost his dad in service. So, planes make him remember things." The woman softened. "I'm sorry. Truly." Malik looked away, uncomfortable with two women watching him like exposed skin. He felt embarrassed, though he didn't know why. He hadn't done anything wrong. But grief had a way of making you feel ashamed even when you didn't deserve it. He tried to distract himself by reaching into his backpack for the old music notebook he always carried. Inside were pages of little melodies he hummed when he couldn't sleep. Some made him sad, others made him calm. But one page, the one with the scribbled notes of his father's tune, always felt special, as if the melody held the last thing his dad ever gave him. He tapped his pencil against the page, but his hand still shook. The young mother across the aisle noticed. "If it helps," she said gently, "your humming earlier, it reminded me of my husband too. He used to hum to our baby before he..." Her voice cracked, and she quickly looked down, blinking away tears. Danielle placed a hand over her heart. Malik lifted his eyes very slowly. Before he could ask, the woman finished her sentence. "He passed away last year. Car accident." Malik felt his chest rise with a quiet ache. Loss was something he understood, even if the details were different, the emptiness felt the same. "I'm sorry," he whispered. The woman nodded. "Thank you. I'm doing my best. Some days I feel like I'm failing. But today, Your voice helped more than you know. Malik didn't know what to say, so he just nodded, his voice caught somewhere behind his heart. Moments later, a man sitting behind them leaned forward. His face was rugged, his beard graying. Son, he said, voice steady but emotional. I haven't heard a tune like that since my deployment days. It reminded me of my brother. Lost him in Afghanistan. When you hummed. I don't know. It felt like he was here again. Danielle's eyes widened. She looked around the cabin. People who had complained earlier now listened with quiet reverence. Some nodded. Some wiped their eyes. Malik looked down at his lap, overwhelmed. I didn't mean to remind people of sad stuff, he whispered. The bearded man shook his head. No, son. You reminded us of love. That tune. It carried something important. Another woman added, it felt like healing. The flight attendant, who had been listening, knelt beside Malik with tears clinging to her eyelashes. Sweetheart, that melody. My mom used to hum something like that before she passed. Hearing you, it brought her back for a moment. Malik's heart pounded. He didn't know his voice could affect people that way. He didn't know something so small could touch wounds so deep. The plane continued quietly, filled now not with noise but with collective remembering, of people lost, of memories tucked away, of love that refused to disappear even after death. Danielle placed her hand on Malik's cheek. Baby, she whispered, your gift, maybe it came from your daddy. Or maybe it came from you. But don't ever think it's small. Malik swallowed hard. He didn't feel gifted. He felt like a kid trying to fill a hole that had been carved in him too young. But hearing everyone's voices, seeing the way their eyes softened, made something inside him loosen, something that had been tight for years. Minutes passed in gentle quiet. The baby slept deeply, curled like a tiny warm bundle of peace. The young mother finally relaxed against the seat, exhaustion settling into her bones, gratitude lingering in her pockets of breath. After a while, a soft voice came from the aisle. Excuse me, son. Mind if I sit for a moment? It was the elderly man from row 21, someone who hadn't said a word the entire flight. His hair was snow-white, his hands trembling slightly as he held a folded American flag pressed tightly to his chest. Danielle nodded respectfully and moved her purse from the empty middle seat so he could sit. The man eased down slowly, his voice shaky. I heard what the others said. I heard your humming too. My daughter. He paused, catching his breath. My daughter served. She didn't make it home. Danielle immediately understood why he held that flag like a fragile piece of his soul. He nodded toward Malik. When you hummed, I swear for a moment, I heard her laugh again. Malik's throat tightened. I'm sorry, sir. The man shook his head. Don't be. Grief isn't something you fix. It's something you carry. But today, you made mine a little lighter. He reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a small military pin, a silver star-shaped emblem dulled with age. I want you to have this. Danielle's breath caught. Sir, that's not necessary. But the old man pressed the pin into Malik's palm with surprising strength. My daughter earned this. She always said the world needed more people who understood others' pain. Somehow, she'd want this to be yours. Malik stared at the pin. His hand shook around it. I don't deserve something like this. The old man smiled, his eyes softening. You soothed a whole plane. Not just a baby. You reminded us that kindness still exists. That matters. Danielle's tears finally spilled. She covered her face for a moment, overwhelmed. The old man squeezed Malik's shoulder then returned to his seat, placing the folded flag into his lap like a sleeping child. For a long moment, Malik stared at the pin. It felt heavy, not because of its size, but because of its meaning. He thought of his dad, of the soldiers who never came home, of the families still waiting. He thought of the melody that lived inside him, something he never imagined could touch others the way it touched him. His mother placed her hand over his. Baby, this is a blessing, not a burden. Malik nodded slowly. But a part of him still wondered why he had been given something meant for someone brave, someone strong, someone like his father. He didn't know that the flight was far from over. He didn't know another moment was coming, one that would push him to confront a fear he'd carried for years. A fear he had never spoken aloud. A fear the sky itself seemed to be waiting to hear. The plane had grown quiet again, the kind of soft silence that feels earned after a long stretch of shared emotion. People rested with their eyes closed, some with hands clasped together as if still holding on to memories awakened by a single tune. But inside Malik, something else had begun to stir, an ache he had ignored for nearly 8 years. As he held the old man's silver star pin in his hand, the weight of it pulled up a memory he hadn't thought about in years. He remembered sitting on his dad's lap on their porch swing, watching lightning bugs dance in the dark. He remembered his father humming the same tune, slow and gentle, even after a long day in uniform. He remembered asking, "Daddy, why you hum that song all the time?" And Isaiah had smiled, tapping his son's nose. "Because it helps people breathe, Malik." At the time he didn't understand. Now, seated above the clouds, surrounded by strangers who had felt something from that tiny melody, he wondered if maybe his father had been right. Danielle reached over and wiped a tear from her cheek. "Baby," she whispered, "your daddy would have loved this moment." Malik nodded. I wish he could hear it." "He did," she said softly. "I believe he did." Before Malik could respond, the captain's voice broke through the speakers. "Folks, we've got an unexpected patch of rough air ahead. Shouldn't last long, but please remain seated." Passengers buckled up again. Danielle gripped her armrest. The old man hugged his flag. The young mother kissed her baby's forehead, whispering a prayer. Malik tried to stay calm. But deep inside, the turbulence always woke a fear he'd carried since childhood, a fear he'd never said out loud, not even to his mother. He feared flying. He feared falling. He feared loss repeating itself. As the first jolt shook the plane, Malik flinched hard. Danielle grabbed his hand, but this time, it wasn't enough to calm him. His breath shortened. His chest tightened. His fingers trembled. Another jolt. Harder. The plane dipped, just for a moment, but enough to draw a wave of gasps from the cabin. A few passengers cried out. The man in the business suit grabbed his armrest as if it might save him. The flight attendant braced herself against the seats. Malik squeezed his eyes shut, feeling tears burn. The sky no longer felt like a place of angels, it felt like a place where things broke. Danielle leaned closer. "Sweetheart, look at me." But he couldn't. His breath came too fast, too sharp. "Oh God," the young mother whispered, holding her baby tighter. "Please calm down, please." The turbulence grew stronger. Cups rattled. A bag shifted in the overhead bin. People whispered frantic prayers. And then it happened. A deep drop. The kind that pulls your stomach into your throat. The kind that makes every person on the plane hold their breath at the same time. A woman screamed. A child cried. The cabin lights flickered. Danielle wrapped her arms around Malik. "I've got you. I've got you, baby." But something inside Malik broke open, something buried deep. "I don't want to die like Daddy," he blurted through tears, the words ripped from a place he had kept locked for years. The entire world seemed to freeze. Danielle's heart shattered. She pressed her forehead to his, tears falling freely. "No, no, baby. We're safe. I promise you. Daddy didn't die in the sky. He died protecting people. You hear me? He died loving you." Malik sobbed harder. "I'm scared, Mama." "I know," she whispered, breathing through her own fear to hold his. "But love is stronger than fear. Hold on to me." The plane dipped again. The baby woke and began to wail. The young mother looked helpless, torn between calming her child and her own shaking hands. Passengers panicked. The cabin felt like a tight drum filled with fear. And then something unexpected happened. The old man from row 21 stood, one hand gripping the seat back, the other clutching his folded flag. His voice, cracked, soft, trembling, floated through the cabin. "Son, sing the tune." Malik lifted his tear-streaked face. I can't." "Yes, you can," the man said. "You helped us. Now let us help you. Sing it, boy. For your daddy. For us." Danielle kissed her son's forehead. "Baby, breathe. And hum if you can. You don't have to be brave. Just be you." Malik swallowed. The plane bumped again. His heart pounded like a drum inside a chest too small to hold it. He closed his eyes. And he hummed. The first notes were shaky, like a candle flickering in the wind. The cabin remained tense, people gripping their seats, some crying quietly. The baby still whimpered. The plane trembled. But Malik kept humming. The melody grew steadier, warmer, stronger. It carried something deeper now, not just comfort, but truth. It carried the pain he had buried, the longing he had never spoken, the fear he finally released, and the love he still felt for a father he barely remembered. The turbulence slowly eased. Passengers looked up, stunned, watching a frightened boy steady an entire airplane with nothing but a sound older than his memory. The baby stopped crying. The young mother exhaled shakily. The old man closed his eyes, holding his flag to his chest. The suit-wearing businessman wiped his eyes with his sleeve. The flight attendant leaned against a seat, breathing with the melody. By the time Malik reached the final note, the turbulence was gone. The sky calmed. The engines steadied. The cabin lights brightened. It was as if the clouds themselves had listened. Malik opened his eyes, tears still streaming. Danielle hugged him tightly, whispering, "I'm so proud of you, baby," over and over again. A passenger whispered, "He saved us." Another said, "I've never seen anything like that." A third voice added, "That boy is a blessing." But Malik didn't feel like a hero. He felt lighter, like he had finally released years of fear into the sky. Hours later, when the plane touched down safely and rolled to the gate, the passengers remained seated longer than usual. They didn't want to rush off. They didn't want to break the moment. One by one, as Malik and Danielle stood to leave, people reached out to him. "Thank you. You helped me remember my mom. You brought peace, son. You're special. Don't ever doubt that." The young mother hugged him, her baby asleep against her chest. "You gave me strength today. You reminded me I'm not alone." The old man pressed a trembling hand to Malik's cheek. "Your daddy lives in you, boy. You carry him every time you hum." Danielle held her son's hand as they walked up the aisle, tears slipping down her face. Not sad tears, grateful tears. Outside the plane, the sun shined warm and bright, as if welcoming them home. Malik looked up at the sky. He didn't feel scared this time. He felt connected, rooted to the ground yet held by something bigger than fear. Danielle knelt in front of him, touching her forehead to his. "Baby, you didn't just soothe a baby. You soothed people's hearts. You soothed your own." Malik nodded. "I think Daddy helped me." Danielle smiled softly. "I think you helped him too." Hand in hand, they walked through the airport toward whatever waited next. Family, memories, healing. The tune still in Malik's heart wasn't just a melody. It was a bridge. Between pain and peace. Between loss and love. Between a father gone and a boy learning to breathe again. And the sky above them carried the echo of a simple truth.